everybody, and welcome to another Top 5 board gaming video. Today's video is actually the companion piece to last week's video. For those of you who didn't see it, last week's video was all about my top 5, well, quote-unquote top 5, games that I am really bad at, but really love. So today we're going to do the opposite of that, where these are my top 5 games that I really don't like the game itself for one reason or another, but I'm pretty good at them, and whenever I play, I do, if not really well, I win, you know, and it's really weird, right? So a couple of caveats for this. The first thing is that I have done a lot of videos similar to this where, you know, I've talked about different aspects of certain games that I don't like for one reason or another. I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. There are a couple of games that sort of cross over with some of that, but by and large, I avoided a lot of the aspects of like just games that I really do not like. You know, that I simply do not like them, I will not play them. These are games that I am willing to play, but they are ones that I'm not like, woo, I get to play game X, yeah, woo, let's do it. I don't really go ecstatic when I'm going to be playing these games. At the same time, I also wanted to avoid games that are really heavily based off of randomness. So, you know, the infamous things like Monopoly or Dexter, right? That's right, I lump Dexter in with Monopoly. That is how I do, right? Stuff like that. The other things are things like party games. I didn't really put party games on this because, you know, it's a different world. You have to go into it with a different mindset. And same thing for things like trivia games. You know, I have a lot of random trivial knowledge and I'm good at trivia games, but I mean, it's just a completely different thing. So, that said, as I mentioned, there will be some crossover with some of the other videos that I have done on relatively similar subjects, but I will be going over each individual game, as always, and discussing why it is on this particular list. Like, why will I replay it when I wouldn't play some other type of game? But with that, we will go ahead and get started with my number 5. At number 5, I've got a game that really has become so bloated and in a way kind of full of itself that it's just sort of annoying now for me to see it. And on top of that, throughout the expansions and iterations and blah 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 that have come out with this game, then nothing has really fundamentally changed. Essentially, it's just adding on more and more of the same, but not altering what happens or how you can do things and things like that, except for just like a little bit of flavor stuff, essentially. So the game itself is Smash Up. Now, Smash Up, I hear, have the big geeky box, right? And it's awesome, okay? Again, all of the games on this list are games that I am willing to play. It's just that when I play them, I'm not just like, woo, Smash Up, woo, let's do it! You know, I'm willing to do it. I enjoy it to some extent, but the thing is that, for me, in this particular case, with the case of Smash Up, it's just sort of gotten stale. I actually did allude to this in one of my other videos where I talked about overdone games, and I mentioned Munchkin as well. That was another one I debated for this video, where it's just, there's so much of it, there's so much of the same or things that are just only slightly varied that it just makes it so that you lose variability because there's just an oversaturation of stuff going on. And the reason that the other reason that Smash Up is on this list is because it is a relatively simplistic game. It's not difficult to grasp. It's not a complex game to play. And again, there's so many expansions for it now. There's so many iterations of Smash Up that it's just it just sort of bogs itself down is what it boils down to. Same thing, again, with Munchkin. It did the exact same thing. But that said, there is enough variety, there's enough mixtures that you can mix and match and this and that and the other thing to still keep my interest level. But again, I would rather play something else, and that's why this is the lowest on the list, simply because, I mean, of all the games on this is the one that I would be most likely to play if you said, hey, here, how about you play one of these games? But essentially, it's still a good game. It's still a fun game, but it's not one that I get really ecstatic about. Smash Up, my number 5. 4 is essentially a cavalcade of pettiness and nitpicking that comes with this game, and it's actually this is another game where I've talked about some of the things I'm going to mention here in the exact same context several different times. The game itself is Acquire. Right? Now, Acquire is a very fun game. It is a good game. It is a cool, interesting, intriguing, strategic game. It is a stock trading game where you have the individual tiles that allow you to build up companies and make them bigger and bigger and bigger, right? The thing is, there's a couple of issues with this game. So first, for those of you who are very diligent, you may notice that last week on my games that I love but am bad at, I had another stock game which was Tesla versus Edison. And the thing is with Acquire, it has some of those similar mechanics, but I mean, Acquire just sometimes falls flat for me. It's a good core game. It's got good mechanics, but at the same time, a lot of the times when I play this game, it tends to boil down to you're just sitting there and waiting for somebody who you know has like some specific tile and wants to merge the companies or whatever it happens to be, and it just gets frustrating because you're waiting for that one specific event to happen and the game doesn't drive itself. The players are the ones that really drive this game, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But the problem is that in this particular case, it can be, because it means that the game can really get bogged down. You can have a substantial amount of downtime if you have people thinking a whole lot about what they're going to do, what they're going to buy, all that kind of stuff. And on top of that, this version, the Wizards of the Coast version, is horrible. I hate this version of the game. I can't stand it because it's terrible. Alright? The component quality in this game is awful. Alright? That is one of the major reasons why I wanted it on this list, is just because I do not like the physical act of playing this game. Like, and again, I'm being petty and I'm being, nitpicky to an extent on this, but it's very true. It is very, very true. You're talking about a game where you have a bunch of tiles laid out on a board and you're trying to put additional tiles in between the other ones, and everything just ends up getting like shifted around and shuffled up, and you're just kind of like, and it just gets very frustrating. And I mean, it's a stupid little thing, but at the same time, when you're playing a game for an hour and a half or 2 hours, it really starts to grind on you, and it gets very, very annoying. But that said, Acquire is my number 4. At number 3, I've got a game that I've only talked about in a couple of different contexts, and the thing is that this is another one of these games where thematically I really, really enjoy it. Like Munchkin and Smash Up, they have a ton of theme going for them, and you're bound to find something that you enjoy. With this game, it's something that I really thought I would like a lot more, and I do. Like, I enjoy the story aspect of it, but the gameplay, as I've played it more and more, I'm just kind of like, The game itself is Beowulf the Legend. Now, Beowulf the Legend is, it's, for lack of a better term, this is a game that is not what you expect. If you are playing a game called Beowulf the Legend, what are you going to think? You're going to think that you're talking about, you're playing as Beowulf, you're helping out, you're going and assisting the villagers, you're killing Grendel, you're doing this, that, and the other. You're having all of these amazing adventures and doing all this incredible stuff. But in this game, it's not what you expect. It is not that stuff. You are a companion of Beowulf trying to essentially assist him as he's doing all of the cool stuff. It's like, if you compare this with something like Blood Rage, which came out not super long ago, that is, you are a bunch of Vikings and you're going around and you're just fighting one another and just like blah, 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 blah. And that's the kind of thing that Beowulf the Legend should have been. It should have been like a very skirmish-based, combat-based, type of game. Whereas in this one, you're talking about collection and resource management to extent and stuff like that. And it's just like, what? Like, what's going on? Again, the game itself is good. It is a solid game here, and again, it's on this list. I'm good at it. I am good at this game, but it's almost a disappointment because with Norse mythology, half of the stories in Norse mythology are about killing giants and stuff like that, and it's like, what the fudge? There was a lot of potential missed out on this. And another one, I don't know if you can see it, but right here, there you go, you can sort of see it, Vikings. Vikings is a really great game that is also obviously about people from, Scandinavia. In that case, it's not based off of the legends, though, but at the same time, you have more of what you would expect from that era, essentially, in history. Again, Beowulf the Legend is a good game. It's a fun game, and I'm good at it. I am good at this type of game, but it just was not what I expected from reading the description and looking at the box and all this stuff. I'm just like, oh, someone gets to fight the big dragon, blah, 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 blah. But no, you're just, you're what is it? A squire, essentially, is what you are. You're a squire to Beowulf, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess. But either way, Beowulf the Legend, my number 3. And number 2, I've got a game that, again, has a wonderful theme, and that's one of the reasons why I still do enjoy the game, and I do play it not too often, because again, it's on this list, I don't really like it. And the reason in this case is because there's so many games that are similar to it. This game is actually part of another, game sort of series of sorts. It is Elder Sign. Elder Sign, part of the Arkham Horror Files. It says it on the box. We've got Elder Sign, we've got Eldritch Horror, we've got Arkham Horror. All 3 of them from Fantasy Flight, all 3 of them Lovecraftian mythos, all 3 of them good games, right? And actually, is a Study in Emerald Fantasy Flight? I don't remember. Study in Emerald is another example. They're all Lovecraftian, they're all fun, they're all good games, but the thing is that Elder Sign just... For me, as somebody who enjoys a more strategic thing, Elder Sign just tends to be too simplistic. That's really what it is. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a good game, especially for newer players, people who aren't familiar with board games or who just want something lighter and things like that. You still have a good Lovecraftian theme to it. You still have that feeling of, terror or horror. You're playing a game. How terrified are you going to be? But you all see my point, right? The thing is that this one, it is the simplest of these major Lovecraftian games, at least of the ones that I've played. And so, similarly to Beowulf the Legend, it's not really a disappointment, it's just that I was hoping for a little bit more oomph, that kind of thing. And, again, it's not bad, I'll play it, I'm good at it. Although in this case, this is just like many of these other games, it is a co-op game. So, me being good at it really doesn't mean a whole lot. But the reason that this is so much higher up on the list compared to all of these other games is, frankly, because this is the game that I had more hope for, essentially. And I was just like, awesome, this is going to be cool, this is going to be great, this is going to be amazing. And again, it's good, but I would really prefer to play Arkham Horror or Eldritch Horror over Elder Sign. That's really what it boils down to. And, it's just, the mechanics are relatively interesting, at least. You get some cool items, some cool cards, they got some cool stuff going on with the combat, but it's not as deep as I would have liked it, especially having come first from the Arkham Horror and Eldritch Horror and then into this, and I'm just sort of like, oh, okay, I guess it's alright, whatevs. But either way, Elder Sign, my number 2. And number 1, I have the only game on this list that I don't own, and if that doesn't tell you something about it at least, then I don't know what will. Remember, we're talking about games that I don't really like, but I'm good at. So, what better way to demonstrate it than with a game that I actually don't have? In this case, the game itself is Roll for the Galaxy. That's right, Roll for the Galaxy is back. And for those of you who watched my bottom 5 of the top 100, you may remember that Roll for the Galaxy was on that one as well, and it's on this list for the exact same reason. I really prefer race. I prefer a race for the galaxy. I am a crazy person. I know. There are a couple of people who agree with me, but they are relatively few and far between. The problem is, whenever I play Roll for the Galaxy, I have always won. Every single time I've played it, I've won. I've played it like 9 or 10 times. And every time I play it, all I can think is, I wish I was playing race. I wish I was playing race. I wish I was playing race. But then I win the stupid thing. And I mean, again, it's a good game. It is an enjoyable experience for the most part, but I'm just like, oh, I feel like there's so much more that I could be doing right now. I feel like there's so many more options that I could have, and so much more tableau going on and all this kind of stuff. Now, maybe playing with some of the expansions will help me out and it'll bring me around to the other side, but at the same time, as of right now, it's just it is not for me personally. It is not my particular taste. I mean, the randomness of having to roll the dice in order to select what you're going to be able to do, if you're going to be able to do it at all, is just like, meh. They do a great job of mitigating it. Don't get me wrong. The randomness is mitigated quite well. I mean, having the resource management aspect is kind of, I mean, it's an interesting resource management because you're talking about dice, and again, I mean, mechanically it's interesting and it has cool stuff in it, but for me personally, just within the context of comparing it to Race for the Galaxy, I just prefer the OG, so to speak. But again, I'm really good at it. I don't understand it. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm so good. But either way, Roll for the Galaxy is my number 1. Number 1. Alright folks, that's it for me. I mean, this is a weird video, right? This is a very interesting one. As I mentioned, it's the other side of the coin from my video last week where I talked about games that I really love but I'm absolutely terrible at. Whereas with this one, I mean, these are games, yeah, I'm willing to play again, but they're not that enjoyable. Like I said, I did want to avoid games that I'm just like, absolutely no, I'm not going to play them ever again, because all of these games I would play again. I really honestly would, but I just would not be super enthused at the idea. That's really what it boils down to. And I mean, as always, I'm very curious what you guys have to say about this. I mean, are there particular mechanics that you really don't enjoy playing but are really good at? Or for that matter, vice versa. You can even go back to the other video and talk about that. Me, for example, I'm horrible at worker placement, but I really love it. It's a tremendous game mechanic, but I always just go like, what? And I just get completely lost. But for me, I mean, these types of games are like right up my alley, you know, talking about relatively short-term planning ahead, synergizing certain capabilities and powers and things like that with whatever you've got in front of you, whether it's like in Smash Up, putting down the cards in such a way that allows them to just sort of boost off of one another. Roll for the Galaxy, where you're talking about obviously your tableau or whatever you've got. I mean, that type of thing, that's really my wheelhouse. These are the games that I'm good at, but I mean, it's just something about them just rubs me the wrong way, and it's unfortunate, really, because again, they're good games. But that said, I'm going to stop rambling for you guys. As always, please put any and all thoughts into the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. I would love to hear the games that you guys really are amazing at and awesome at, but just don't like to play ever. Maybe you have like your wife, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it happens to be, who just absolutely loves a particular game, and you're just kind of like, okay, sweetie, because you know, you gotta make them happy. You'll make them happy. So why wouldn't you play it? Why wouldn't you do it? But that said, thank you so very much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much again, everybody, for watching my video of my top 5 games that I really do not enjoy that much, but for whatever reason, I'm really awesome at, and I tend to win them. With that, once again, I would love to hear your guys' experience on this. Obviously, this is a bit of a strange category that we really tend not to have a lot of experience with, because if we don't enjoy a game, it's relatively rare that we're gonna play it again. But again, thank you very much for watching it. As usual, I've got some of my playlists linked up at the top of the page so you can see more of my work, and you can click on the big giant subscribe button to see more of me in the future. With that, thank you so very much again, and I will see you next time.